I was 65 pounds overweight on a fat-free diet. Yo-yo dieted for years, restriction dieted for years, 1,200 calories, 1,000 calories, chicken, brown rice, and broccoli, no fat. I mean, I was just at my wit's end. Aside from the weight, my most miserable symptoms was the excessive hunger and the cravings. So that they really ran my life. And it was like whatever I could do to stay on the diet from Monday through Thursday. And then by Thursday or Friday, it was like the weekend was there. Everything went to hell in a handbag. It was like
cheat day
to go out and just fall off the plan, and then what happened every Monday, you start over again.
Yeah.
And I just got to the point that I was just so tired of that cycle. I was in my 20s, and, aside from being tired of the dieting piece of it, is like the hormone issues, the gut issues, all of that. I just felt like there was no way that I was going to, how could I get past my 20s into my 30s, and now I'm 45 with all of those issues. And so that just, sent me down a path looking for something different. I sort of like fell into low carb. I didn't really know that like low carb and keto and carnivore were actual things that people did on purpose. But I just started to realize that like I was craving more steak and I was craving more cheese and fatty foods. And I finally got to a point where this other stuff isn't working. I'm just going to try something different and go from there and just see what happens. I was able to lose the weight. There was no way I was the only woman struggling with these same issues. Going to the doctor, being told my blood work was normal and that I was crazy. It was all in my head, yet still not getting the results that I was looking for, both internally and externally. Got into my practice, got certifications in, holistic nutrition and functional medicine, and the rest is history after that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the supersetyourlife.com podcast, your weekly dose of inspiration, entertainment, and education to fuel your life inside and beyond the gym. My name is Taylor Milton, and if this is your first time joining us, we're so glad you're here. Every week, my husband Colt and I pray and ask each other what kind of content our coaching members, clients, and podcast community could benefit from the most. Guests range from professional bodybuilders, nutrition doctors, fitness entrepreneurs, stand-up comedians, and sometimes it's just the two of us teaching on popular questions we get asked. And sometimes we interrupt each other, but we argue, but we're working on it. And you know what? That's what life is about, growing. We do not accept donations because this show is a labor of love and our gift to you as the listener. All we ask is that you share it and help spread the positivity. This is a team effort. If you keep helping us do that and spread the show, we will keep showing up to get you guys high-level guests to keep your fitness journey exciting and sustainable. If you'd like to support our mission, we do invite you to check out our website, supersetyourlife.com. Colt has won awards in 8 natural bodybuilding shows, as well as the Best Poser award in half of those shows. It's an art that I just love watching him do. He has experience in coaching male and female athletes in both men's and women's bodybuilding, men's and women's physique, men's classic physique, bikini and figure, and he's also putting together a group of athletes for fall of 2022, including old and new clients, and this is a surprise, guys. He is going to be competing and doing his prep on a carnivore diet. It is something you don't want to miss out on. It's going to be his best physique yet. Text COMPETE to Colt at 206-743-1346 for any questions you may have on the competitions. He'd love to hear from you. We also have our own motivational gym logbooks for you to track your progress, featuring quotes from pro bodybuilders, Olympic and professional athletes, and famous influencers. Our own patented Skull Bells workout equipment line, which is our Skull dumbbells and curl bars. They're pretty metal. I know that's what you're thinking, but they're awesome. We love them so much. And we have our Skull cable attachments, which you guys, if you haven't seen this or seen any of the videos Colt's posted, you have to go check out his Instagram. We have tons of reels on them. It is our extra long cable rope attachment. It is a must if you are a gym goer. And then anything Skull Bells related, follow our Skull Bells Instagram account at Skull Bells. And if you head over to our website, supersetyourlife.com, I promise you're going to find something that you love. And of course, there's a 100% satisfaction guarantee on all of our products and services. Lastly, guys, if you'd like to be a part of our Facebook community, text Facebook to Colt at 206-743-1346 or shoot him a DM on Instagram to be invited to our Facebook group where we encourage, uplift, and inspire each other within our circle of friends and clients. Guys, it is an incredible group. We absolutely love it. And the culture we are just in the midst of creating is just like no other you'll find anywhere else. So definitely join that group. All right, guys, now we're going to jump into the interview with Dani. A few things about her real quick. Her IG handle is carnivore.keto.fitness, and links in her bio for her link tree are going to include links to different podcasts, her links to some awesome recipes. I saw a steak and butter challenge on there. Yum. And then also a link to her ancestral supplement discount. Her email is Dani, Dani, at nutritionthenaturalway.com. She is an affiliate with the Ancestral Supplements, and you can email her through the site for coaching and anything through that email I just provided. Dani, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you. Dani Conway is a 15-year carnivore keto veteran. She's a nutritionist who specializes in helping people optimize their hormones, increase their gut health, fat loss, and much more through a meat-based diet. She successfully helped heal her body with the carnivore diet approach from hormonal issues, digestive issues, mental health, and much more. Dani, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to talk to you guys.
So we have some questions from some of our clients and just some friends of ours who are all newer to the meat-based diet. Before we do that, we'd love to just hear your story. Just what was it like for you transitioning from whatever you were doing before? What kind of pushed you that way to a meat-based diet? Just tell us all of it.
Yeah. So I'm sure you guys will be able to relate with your fitness background and nutrition background as well. So I was 65 pounds overweight on a fat-free diet. Yo-yo dieted for years, restriction dieted for years, 1,200 calories, 1,000 calories, chicken, brown rice, and broccoli, no fat. I mean, I was just at my wit's end. Aside from the weight, my worst symptoms, or like my most miserable symptoms, I should say, was the excessive hunger and the cravings. So that they really ran my life. And it was like whatever I could do to stay on the diet from Monday through Thursday. And then by Thursday or Friday, it was like the weekend was there. Everything went to hell in a handbag. It was like usually to go out and just fall off the plan, and then what happened every Monday, you start over again.
Yeah.
And I just got to the point that I was just so tired of that cycle. I was in my 20s, and, aside from being tired of the dieting piece of it, is like the hormone issues, the gut issues, all of that. I just felt like there was no way that I was going to, how could I get past my 20s into my 30s? And now I'm 45 with all of those issues. And so that just, sent me down a path looking for something different. I sort of like fell into low carb. I didn't really know that like low carb and keto and carnivore were actual things that people did on purpose. But I just started to realize that like I was craving more steak and I was craving more cheese and fatty foods. And I finally got to a point where this other stuff isn't working. I'm just going to try something different and go from there and just see what happens.
Yeah.
So went from there, kind of fast forward a few years, I was able to lose the weight, which was, 65 pounds. Then, spent a lot of years continuing to improve body composition after that. But then around 2007, this was 2006, 2007 into 2008, I just realized that like there was no way I was the only woman struggling with these same issues. Going to the doctor, being told my blood work was normal and that I was crazy. It was all in my head, yet still not getting the results that I was looking for, both internally and externally. So, let's be real. Like there was a vanity piece of it as well, as far as the weight goes. So that just kind of, got into my practice, got certifications in, holistic nutrition and functional medicine. And, the rest is history after that. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Thanks for sharing that. Isn't it amazing how your hormonal health is affected so much by mentally, just like what you see in the mirror too? I mean, like I know that you jokingly said vanity, but I think that there's a deeper emotional aspect of it that affects you physiologically based on what you see and your appearance.
Oh, definitely. And I think that like how I felt like, I used to retain a ton of water, and I mean, I literally like would tell people I felt like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. It wasn't just in my belly. I mean, like I struggled with bloating, but the water retention was just like it was everywhere. And
Yeah.
it was uncomfortable in my skin, both physically and, mentally, because I had to live in my skin, right? So
Yeah.
there was a lot of goals around like figuring out how I could become comfortable in my skin, both mentally and physically.
Yeah. For sure. I also just listened, a week ago to your podcast with Scott Mislinski on what is that? Oh my gosh.
Carnivore
Cast. Yeah, sorry. Blanking there. But I thought it was really interesting how you were talking about your breast implant illness, because I feel like that is something that a lot of people don't talk about, but I've started to see it more and more though, like especially on social media. So if you're okay with going into a little bit of like some of the symptoms that you experience, because I'm sure that women that listen to our podcast that might be experiencing something like that. So
yeah, no, thanks for asking about this. One of the things about always get asked if I regret the experience, which I'll talk about in just a second. And I can say that I wish that I didn't have it, from the stuff that I had to go through, from the thousands of dollars that it cost and all of that. But then the other piece of it is like, if I could help one woman realize that they might be causing problems, or help one woman, decide that she doesn't need implants in order to, improve her confidence, then, I don't want to say that it was worth it, but it was kind of worth it in a way. Right.
yeah.
So I got the implants in 2013. I thought it was 2012, but I think it was 2013. And within 3 weeks of the surgery, I started having symptoms. So at the time, it was very soon after. I blamed it on the anesthesia. I mean, I blamed everything else but the implants, the fact that I put, 2 foreign bodies in my body.
Yeah.
And at the time, those symptoms were digestive. So it was nausea after I was eating, stomach aches, just things that I had. I mean, admittedly, I had a history of digestive issues, but they were gone for quite a few years prior to me having the surgery and getting the implants. So I know that there was a direct correlation. Fast forward a little bit of time, the symptoms never really went away. I spent thousands of dollars on acupuncture, Chinese herbs, functional medicine, functional herbs, like all of the things that I knew how to do to solve these issues.
Yeah.
And, to get to the root cause, and nothing was actually working. And, at the same time, it was a little bit of a shameful thing for me to admit, because here I dedicated my life to helping women get healthy and rebalance their hormones and their gut health. And yet I did something for vanity, and I was trying to heal my body all over again.
Yeah.
So, a lot of it played into like the mental piece of it. And it just got to the point. So kind of fast forward again, 2018, I had some thyroid testing, and my antibodies went up just a little bit, like in the 30s or 40s, which isn't that high, but it's high for somebody who is gluten-free since 2008, like completely gluten-free, not just once in a while, because that was before that, but completely gluten-free, meat-based, keto, carnivore on and off, all the clean things that I did, and yet I was still having these thyroid markers that were off. And so at that point, I started to hear a little bit more about breast implant illness, and the symptoms from autoimmune type issues to digestive issues to things that basically no one would attribute to implants.
Right.
And then in 2018, I knew they had to come out, but I wasn't ready to kind of make that happen. It was just kind of like I was watching these things in the background, like probably knowing what I needed to do at that point. And then the end of 2020, I was just like, I was so done with the digestive issues that I couldn't get rid of. And I knew that I was doing all the right things otherwise. And I was starting to see more stories of women who had pretty miraculous recoveries from things like autoimmune issues and other kind of stuff. And the other kicker for me was fall of 2020 at my last, when I had thyroid retested, specifically the antibodies, they were up over 200.
Wow.
Clean, no gluten. I did have some sleep issues in this time frame. That was another big piece, some anxiety. But at that point I was like, shit, like this,
Yeah.
I don't know what else could be contributing to this. So scheduled the surgery, and that was, then it was like 6 months later. So I still had to wait like 5 or 6 months from the actual date it was scheduled. And that was March of this year. So it's 8 months, just going on 9 months this month.
Wow. And do you feel just completely different, or has it taken some time, or what?
Like a different human. I mean, it's really bizarre.
Yeah, it really is, but it's amazing too. Thankfully you're feeling better.
Yeah. And it's just, when I say it's bizarre, it's like, we as women don't think that something as simple as that would make such a difference either way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would say like within weeks, this like debilitating anxiety that I was dealing with, that I had never had anxiety before in my life, was gone.
Wow.
Digestive issues, stomach aches every night after dinner, gone. Like things were just like disappearing. My sleep got better, like just so many things. So, I always say, like, I would never tell anyone, don't do this, don't do that. But I say, like, do the research you don't want to do either way. Like whatever you decide, like make sure you do the research that you don't want to go look for, because that was my biggest mistake.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for that. If I may interject real quick, we had a question from Kari Montes, who is from Wenatchee, Washington. She's our newest client as of yesterday. Her question actually was, has your digestion improved over your carnivore years? So I think I'm just going to put a check mark to that one and say that that's a big yes.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I will just add, it did improve prior to the implant. So I was low carb, keto, carnivore-ish, 2006 into 2012. So I definitely had huge improvements in my digestive symptoms, at that point, prior to kind of screwing myself up in a way with the implants.
Yeah. Thankfully that was able to be fixed though.
Yeah.
Actually, before you ask a question, Ben, is it okay if I ask one?
Yeah.
Okay. Just because you were talking about gut health.
Yeah.
So we've been doing a lot of research lately on the carnivore diet's effect on gut health, because we have a client that has leaky gut syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
And from the research that I was able to find in Sean, a lot of it was inspired by Sean Baker's book, The Carnivore Diet, and Melanie Avalon's book, What, When, Wine, which is a book based on how the paleo diet and intermittent fasting, both working together, can be very beneficial. And basically what I gathered is, correct me if I'm wrong, but that leaky gut leads to many other diseases. It's very problematic in the way that it is, it's caused by plant oils, medications, supplements, grains, legumes, nightshades, dairy, and sweeteners, and that having a meat-based diet would eliminate all of those problematic foods, thereby normalizing the intestinal permeability. Is that something? Do you have any experience with seeing that among your clients and the research that you've gathered?
Yeah, I have a ton of experience with leaky gut syndrome. So all of that is right on track. The other piece of leaky gut is that there is often underlying pathogens, bacteria imbalances, and those need to be addressed as well. So where the benefits of, let's in this particular case say the carnivore diet, come in, is that it is like the ultimate elimination diet of all of these inflammatory things that are affecting the GI tract. And basically it's the little villi in the GI tract that are inflamed, and there's, for lack of a better term, holes in the gut, and the antigens from all these foods, these things, these inflammatory items are basically permeating through there, getting into the blood, and the body is attacking itself, because it's saying, hey, there's a foreign body here, I don't know what to do with this, and causing a reaction. So the thing about leaky gut is that, eliminating the inflammatory foods is a very important piece of it. It's like step number one. And then, continuing to heal the gut with, various, herbs. I mean, I know herbs, you're probably like, wait, that's not carnivore. But, in my opinion and in my practice, when I work with clients to heal leaky gut, herbs and supplements, everything is in context. So they can be used holistically for a therapeutic time frame to help to support the body to heal something that's going on. And that's very true with leaky gut as well.
Wow. Thanks so much for that. Yeah.
Let me go.
Go ahead.
Okay. So we have a few clients who are at the menopausal years, and I think I have like 3 of these questions, but they're all wondering just I'm sure you've seen just a positive impact the meat-based diet has on balancing hormones and just helping women kind of transition into that. Is there anything different that you do with your clients?
Hormones are synthesized from fats. So cholesterol is at the top of the chain in terms of, hormone pathways, steroid hormone pathways, and then, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, the adrenal hormones, cortisol, and DHEA. All of those hormones are made from fats, primarily cholesterol and animal-based fats. So when you improve or increase those foods in the diet, that is definitely going to help with rebalancing hormones, hormones and hormonal symptoms.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. And not just the nutrition, but not just the micronutrients, but the macronutrients as well, having the high amounts of protein and fats. As a bodybuilder, I'm always trying to keep all of our clients' fats as high as possible, but low enough to be able to see the results that we want. So I'm sure you saw this coming, but usually just comes to the point where I'm like, let's just get rid of carbs. That's the one that we don't need. We need fats.
Yeah, and I love that you talk about that, because it's such, this whole like high fat. Can I build muscle? Can I do all these things with high fat? High protein, lower carb. And I just love that. Now it's become more mainstream within our holistic world, but especially, years ago, there was all this, you can't build muscle on a low carb or keto diet and, all this crazy stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, actually you can.
Yeah. Yeah. You get plenty of insulin from the protein, and you don't have to jack it up with dextrose and stuff. I used to buy literally bags of dextrose thinking that I needed more insulin to build muscle. And it's not how the body works. Okay. Mr. Jonathan Stedman from Arkansas he's an MRI tech, and he had a question. He says, I have a friend that has gout and he has a problem eating any type of pork products. Do you think that the carnivore diet would be worth giving a shot?
Yeah, absolutely. So pork can be really inflammatory. I mean, any food that's considered healthy. I mean, I have clients that come back sensitive to beef on a food sensitivity test. So what do? We take them off beef, we figure out how to heal their gut, and then they can eat beef again. So, you don't need to eat pork in order to do the carnivore diet. It's a great way to learn what foods you're sensitive to, and pork can be inflammatory for a lot of people, as can chicken. So again, like, you can customize the carnivore diet within the context of the person and what's going on for them in order to, for them to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Great. Wow. Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'll be happy to hear that. Next, we have Ossama from Renton. He asks, one of the challenges of the carnivore diet is the cost of meat prices, especially in today's market.
Yeah, for sure.
Any tips or suggestions on how to optimize spending on carnivore?
Yeah. So, buying in bulk is definitely helpful. Buying meat on sale, like there's, going to be sales at various grocery stores. Another really, really good way to do it is to find local farmers markets and buy directly from the farmer. Another possibility would be like co-ops, depending on your area, or, getting a bunch of friends and going in on finding a farmer and buying a half a cow or a whole cow and splitting up all the meat, between a few families. Yes, that would require, budgeting to save for like a deep freezer type thing, but in the long run, it's definitely worth it to do that.
Awesome. Great. You made a joke a couple a few minutes ago about, I know this technically isn't carnivore, but herbs, blah, blah, blah. I think people have the idea that the carnivore diet is the opposite of a vegetarian diet, right? Where a vegan diet will strictly eliminate all animal products, and carnivores, as we know, like dogs and eat like any animal that is a carnivore, they do eat plants from time to time, and humans, we believe, are no exception to that. So do you include any plants at all? And if so, like what vegetables do you throw in here and there?
Yeah, so I believe in cycling those things. So we hear about eating seasonally, and it's not so much seasonally on the carnivore diet. It's more about, food rotation based on various things that might be happening. So I definitely, cycle in and out with plants, avocado, some berries, vegetables, like I do some broccoli sometimes. I'll do cabbage, onions, garlic, mushrooms. So it just depends. I eat intuitively. So if I'm in a phase where I am cycling in veggies, I really just go by what I feel like sounds good. What, and I know it sounds kind of like woo-woo in a way. But when you get to a point where, you can eat intuitively, I just find that works for me. And I know that might not be concrete, and somebody listening might be like, okay, like that, I don't know about that. But there's, if someone is not confident in feeling like they could choose plants intuitively, they could start with like lower oxalate veggies, like I said, avocados, which kind of falls into our higher fat sort of way of eating, and then just kind of go from there, just experimenting a little bit at a time, maybe using some spices, dried herbs, things like that.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite dish, a favorite meat? Like if you could have one meal the rest of the day, what would that be?
Jeez. I love steak. I love ribeyes. I don't love chicken. It's not my favorite.
Me neither.
What else? I love, we eat duck a lot. Salmon, scallops, shrimp, shellfish. I can do all of that stuff. So, but
do you like game?
What?
Do you like deer and bison, stuff like that?
I don't love I'll get those if I can. But they're so lean.
Yeah.
That is like, they're too lean for me. So that's where I love like ribeye. I can add butter. I know I can add butter to those meats too, but I feel like I feel the best with beef most of the time.
Yeah, we both feel the same way too. It's just so darn expensive right now. It's crazy.
I know. We were talking about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the bodybuilder in me right now, of course, you're rattling off all these foods, and I'm thinking macronutrient ratios. Is that something that you consider when you look at what your meal choices are?
Oh yeah. So for me personally, yes, and for my clients. So in terms of like the carnivore diet, and women with hormones, like you were asking me about, midlife women a little while ago. Mm-hmm. That 70% fat, 30% protein, 60-40, that range in there. That's where I tend to sort of start many women in that age range. Myself personally, I kind of stay there too, but I also eat intuitively. Like if I feel like I want more butter or need more fat, then I'll add it. If I have days where I feel like, all I want is like a leaner New York steak and some ground beef with that, I'll do that too. So I definitely believe in macro tracking. I wouldn't have had my results if I didn't track macros. Right. But my approach with macros is more about making sure I and clients are getting enough on a daily basis and that we're fueling correctly. Because my approach is always fueling before fasting. Like you should do what's correct in your eating window before you start to take away hours from your eating window for fasting. Yeah. And so it's always about making sure you're getting enough, on a daily basis. Like, when I track for me, when I was still losing, it's, 17 to 1800 calories, which to some women, that's going to sound like a lot. When I'm at sort of a maintenance place, it's, 2,000 to 2,500. I'm super active. And I also noticed I don't sleep as well if I am below like 2,000 calories.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I'm definitely a believer in macros. I feel like we should know where we are. And especially for those like coming from a restrictive dieting background, like it helped me to learn to eat intuitively, to see like, okay, this is what I need to aim for on a daily basis, where my habit was like trying to eat as little as possible, or just the leanest meats possible.
That's really inspiring that I think that sounds a little high as far as calories go. You're maintaining your body weight on that amount of calories, which is awesome, because most women that come to us for coaching, they seem to be maintaining their body weight around, like, if they are tracking their macros, and we're assuming that this is accurate,
right,
it's usually around like 1,700-1,800 with a balanced diet of carbs and proteins and fats and everything just kind of spread throughout. So I guess my point in saying that is I've also noticed that I'm able to get away with having a little bit higher calories and maintain a decent conditioning and energy level. So.
Yeah, I feel like the nutrient dense foods are important. Activity though too. I mean, I'm training 5 or 6 days a week. I ride my horse 5 days a week. So, very active in terms of all of that. So.
Awesome. Well, I'm just thinking at what you have me at. You have me at 1,700, and that's for Taylor for losing. So my maintenance would probably be around 2,000.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Last bodybuilding question, I promise.
No, you ask away.
Okay, great. Your exercise, what does that look like? Is it more functionality and everything? I love your picture with your dumbbell in one hand and the horse collar in the other hand. That was really cool. I was like, yeah, that's my style.
Yeah, she was at that point in that photo shoot, she was kind of like, why are you not giving me carrots? Why are you holding a dumbbell in your hand? No, but so as far as like workouts go, I mean, because I ride 5 days a week and we do, we jump and we, it's pretty intense as far as the riding goes. I stick with more functional training, body weight training, bar type workouts. And I add in a few heavier days with my upper body weights on days that I'm not riding. And then try to do, the leg stuff, also alternate on the days that I'm not riding, the longer leg workouts, I should say. But really the bar workouts, I find that they are very effective. They're not, what do I want to say? They're not hard on my joints.
Yeah.
Very much
about bar
core work. And so I love to do like a warm-up workout before I go ride. And I find that the bar workouts are just ideal for that. Being very conditioned. I mean, I wouldn't have somebody that is just getting started with riding or working out do that before they go ride a horse.
Steve Fleischer from Wolfville, Nova Scotia wrote in with a question. He is asking how the carnivore diet would compare to a long-term paleo approach, in your opinion, to where you're eliminating a lot of the problematic foods like the grains, the legumes and everything, but you're still having carbohydrates in your diet and your macronutrients are balanced and spread out. If that would be something to where, I know you're not one size fits all, which is one of the things I loved about your last podcast, and which is one of the reasons why I was like, oh, we need to talk, because so me too. A lot of my programs that we do for our clients do involve carbs, especially for performance reasons. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that, comparing the two.
Yeah. So actually the first thing I was thinking as you were talking is that I don't have a one size fits all approach. So my biggest complaint when it comes to paleo is that people could eat, a tons of veggies and not enough animal protein and animal fats and still be paleo, and still have cravings and still have digestive issues and still have bloating and still have low energy. So it still comes down to dialing in those macronutrients, making sure that macro formula is correct. Even if someone's going to have a paleo approach, including veggies, including sweet potatoes, not including grains, legumes, dairy inflammatory foods, but they still need to, dial in those macros in a balance that is going to keep them satiated and give them enough energy and all of that, on a daily basis. So no problem with paleo. My problem comes when people are still not balancing those macros for their body, for their metabolism.
Love it. Thank you for that. Kari, you had a question.
Yeah. So I this year I had my daughter 2 years ago this month. And, after postpartum, I went through some hair loss at like 5-6 months, and it didn't really stop, but it kind of stayed steady. Mm-hmm. Just a lot of hair shedding. And then this last year, I really went on a fitness and weight loss journey and lost 45 pounds ish. And I've really noticed like tons of hair loss. And I've been on a keto diet since last August, right? So over a year. And then 2 or 3 weeks ago, I transitioned to full carnivore as I was starting to get really fed up with my hair loss. I've had my thyroid checked. This is from a doctor too. And he didn't want to do like the T3, T4 and the free T3. And I like pushed for it so many times and he wouldn't do it. So after that came back normal, I went to a naturopath, and I'm waiting to get in for my blood work now. And he's going to do like all the more expanded thyroid panel.
Good.
But I was just curious if you've been able to, or if you know of, or have had any experience with a woman with hair loss and had that, been affected in a positive way with the carnivore diet at all.
Yeah. Hair loss is clearly not a problem for Dani. Sorry.
Your hair is
beautiful.
I didn't, because I figured you probably haven't had too much with it, but if you have any clients or anything.
Yeah, it's so common. And yes, I have tons of clients, and this is like one of the most common questions, I feel like, and one of the most common things that women struggle with. So I think like going through the weight loss journey, did you just say how old your
our daughter will be 2 a few weeks. And so the doctor's like, oh, you're probably just going through some more postpartum hair loss. I'm like, in 2 years.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah. So, I'm going to guess that your food, your macros, everything like that is like on target. So with that being said, that kind of brings me to like more, what's going on under the surface. So I love that you're getting all the thyroid stuff tested. Another thing to look at would be to, optimizing digestion in terms of nutrient absorption. So
yeah, he's going to look at that when I see him in person. So I should have said that the naturopath is doing a lot more in-depth look at everything else. So
no, I'm glad to hear that.
He did mention that, because I did tell him I was on a carnivore diet, and he wasn't upset or anything about that. He's just like, well, we just need to make sure everything is being absorbed properly.
Yes.
So I'm assuming they can tell that through blood work. I think that's what he's checking. I'm not really sure.
So I test digestion through stool testing to look at enzyme production, inflammatory markers, gliadin, immune function, and then of course bacterial overgrowth pathogens, things like that.
Yeah.
Sometimes there can be stuff there as well.
Okay. I'm just going to take tons of notes and bring that all with me the next time I see him.
You should just send him the podcast.
I know. Yeah. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah. And do you do any, do you eat organs or do any organ supplementation? Because that can be helpful too.
I need to. Cole's been trying to get me to eat.
Bone broth. Does bone broth count as organs?
No.
Sorry.
So I mean, like liver, liver is,
Yeah, I've been trying. Colt's, it's a constant.
It's funny that you ask, because she does sometimes. She just doesn't always know if she does, and it's because I
take
great. And there's lamb coming and stuff.
I take capsules because I can't do it. I've tried like a million times.
Yeah, the really bloody flavor of
I highly recommend organ supplements if you can't do actual organs.
Do you have a company that you recommend?
Yeah, I like Ancestral Supplements. So you could do like their liver, the beef organs, depending on the thyroid, you could, I've had clients where I just put them on the beef thyroid for a little bit. What else do we use? The bone too. That can be helpful for hair loss as well.
Dani, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time on our show. yeah, can't wait to share it.
Thanks so much, Colt, for having me. It was great meeting you guys.
Thank you, listeners, for joining us on this episode. If you found this helpful or entertaining, we ask if you would please share this with a friend. We also would love to hear what you think of our show, so any ratings or reviews are very much appreciated. We have a new episode every Saturday morning, so please subscribe so you don't miss them. Thank you again, and God bless.